Good morning. Happy Thursday. Welcome, everyone. I'm really excited about this session. Happy Arts and Humanities Month as well. And so, as in the celebration of that, I wanted to introduce our community and the communities that we work with to three special organizations that I think very highly of. We work with them in different capacities throughout the years at South Arts. But selfishly, I also know that these organizations have updated a lot of their information, are going through their own series of planning, and this gives me an opportunity just alongside you to learn more about their programs and services so we can stay updated as a community. But I think you'll enjoy the conversations and learning about these organizations. My name is Jessica Holland. I'm the Director of Organization and Community Initiatives with South Arts. And before I turn it over to our amazing panel, I want to introduce you to Lisa Smalls. Lisa is Assistant Director of Programs here at South Arts and works with me in organization and community initiatives. And she also wears a couple other hats as well within South Arts, as we all do. So, a couple of other things. I just want to start with a big thanks to the National Endowment for the Arts, who supports this program and other virtual learning series that we offer throughout the year. If you go to our professional development page on the South Arts website, you can learn more about past sessions, look at the recordings or even the PowerPoints that are there. And then you'll also learn about upcoming. We're revamping a little bit, so we'll have a new suite of virtual learning opportunities in the new year. Great. Well, I'm going to turn it over to beginning with Barbara Davis, and we'll start there, and then little bit about how this will work. We'll see some short presentations, and then I have breakout rooms. And I'll let you know before we go into the breakout room who's going to be where, but we'll have Barbara in room 1, Molly in room 2, Cameron in room 3, and that'll make more sense after you see their presentations, but we'll go over that again, and then you can choose which room you would like to go into to meet and learn a little bit more about our presenters today. And then we'll switch it up and ask you to choose a new room or stay in the room that you want to. So the choice is entirely yours. But without any further ado, I want to introduce Barbara Davis. And Barbara, I'm excited to have you here, and I'm going to spotlight you so you can talk about the Entertainment Community Fund.
Great. Thank you so much. Nice to see everyone here. I'm going to start. I think it's easy to start with a little bit of a PowerPoint. So let's make sure that this is working. I'm going to share my screen. And can you see that?
Yes.
All right.
Beautiful.
Excellent. Excellent. So very briefly, the mission of the Entertainment Community Fund, which is formerly known as the Actors Fund, we changed our name just over a year and a half ago, after 140 years of being the Actors Fund. We've always been for everybody who works in performing arts and entertainment. So we decided to finally pull the plug and change the name to reflect that. So as you can see, our mission is to foster stability and resiliency and provide a safety net for performing arts and entertainment professionals over their lifespan. We help everybody that works in film, television, radio, theater, opera, dance, and music. Our board is led by Annette Benning, who just took over as board chair this past year. Before that, Brian Stokes Mitchell, one of Broadway's most wonderful leading men, was the chair for almost 20 years. We are physically located in New York, Los Angeles, and Chicago. But as I said before, we are a national organization, so most of our services are available to anyone in the country. Why we help is really based on the challenges that people who work in performing arts face, whether it's episodic employment, varying rates of pay, lack of affordable housing, physical risks, difficulty qualifying for health insurance, lots of different reasons, but our focus is really on the basic needs of people who work in performing arts. How we help really are through different programs that focus on health, wellness, career services, supports with people's lives, and different types of housing. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of those areas. Financial assistance has played a big part in our history. And the need as of late has been quite high, as you can well imagine. Over the time period, we really considered doing COVID assistance, COVID-related assistance. We provided over $30 million in direct financial assistance to individuals. And since the shutdown of the film and television industry, since May 2nd, we've spent what'll be this week almost $10 million in emergency financial assistance to film and television workers. Eligibility for our services is really based on work history in the industry. So each of our programs have eligibility criteria. It's all on our website, so it's really pretty clear. It's based on work history, and for any kind of financial assistance, it's based on need. Our social services programs, we probably employ about close to 40 social workers that work in different programs focused on mental health services, addiction and recovery, HIV support. We do a lot of work with seniors in our communities. Specialized programs like the Dancers Resource, which was developed to assist injured dancers and now takes a more holistic focus on dancer wellness as well. We do a lot of work around disasters, disaster resources, emergency financial assistance, as I've talked about, and a financial wellness program that really focuses on the basic issues of planning for people who are episodic and gig workers. So the financial wellness program addresses everything from budgeting, investments, retirement planning, student loan and student debts, bankruptcy, et cetera. So there's a lot that happens in that program. And when we go into the breakout rooms, if there's any particular programs people have questions about or want me to focus on, happy to do that. We do a lot of work in partnerships. We run member assistance programs for many unions and some other organizations. This is an example of many of them, that we are the member assistance program for a lot of IATSE unions around the country. As well as other unions and associations. Our social services program also has a very special program for professional children in the industry. This is a program that started in California, in Los Angeles, working primarily with kids under the age of 18 who work in film and television. We are now expanding that program to make it national. We do a lot of work with theater kids as well as kids working in film and television in different parts of the country. Our Artist Health Insurance Resource Center is, I believe, the only health insurance counseling program nationally that focuses on people who work in the arts. In New York and California, we are navigators for the ACA, so we do the actual enrollments with people. We are just starting to do that now in Chicago as well. But we provide insurance counseling to anyone in the country. So say someone is transitioning, they're off of one insurance, they need to buy something through your state exchange or the federal exchange, the insurance counselors can help guide people in figuring out how to make the decisions and find something that's affordable for them, apply for the subsidies, etc. In New York, we also have a health center that we run in partnership with Mount Sinai Hospital. So this is the Friedman Health Center for Performing Arts. It's focused on both primary care as well as specialty care. Our Career Center started off many years ago as what was called the Actors Work Program. And it was initially designed to help people develop sideline or parallel careers so that when they're not earning their living in their primary craft, they have something meaningful to fall back on. Over the years, this program has really evolved to focus on your overall career and look at how do you develop multiple streams of income throughout your lifetime as a working artist or arts worker. So we have many classes on all sorts of topics, ranging from the basics of resume writing and interviewing to really looking at things like teaching, helping people with teaching artist careers, creative entrepreneurship, and many other programs. All of these services are offered online, so they can be accessed to anyone, no matter where you are in the country. To participate in the Career Center, you just have to go to orientation, which we offer twice a week, and then sign up for whatever kind of programming or career counseling is of interest. A program within the Career Center that's important to us is Career Transition for Dancers. This is a program that was started back in 1985 to help dancers develop second careers when they are making that transition. So in addition to the career counseling work and programs that we run, we also have a scholarship program, both for certificate programs, undergraduate and graduate programs. We're very involved in affordable housing. We do a lot of classes on finding affordable housing and understanding government subsidy programs around the country. And we have a development corporation. So the fund has developed a number of projects here in the New York City area, as well as in Los Angeles. And we're always looking for opportunities to partner and get involved in developing more artist housing. Our most recent project that just rented up this summer is the Hollywood Arts Collective in Los Angeles. The Hollywood Arts Collective is a 151 unit artist housing project that as I said, was completed this year, fully rented up. And we are now in the process of developing the second building attached to that, which is going to be an arts center with a black box theater, and home to a number of different small arts organizations. In Inglewood, New Jersey, one of the things we're probably best known for is the Actors Fund Home. We have run some sort of a retirement home since 1902. Our current home has 4 levels of care. It's assisted living memory care, skilled nursing, and subacute care, so short-term rehabilitation. We have people come to the home from all over the country. We're moving somebody in, I think this morning, from Florida, a couple from Florida. So we do take people from all over. I would say that about 70% of our residents are Medicaid. We can work with people around the country who need to apply because it'll have to be New Jersey Medicaid. But this really, I think, is one of the best facilities for someone who needs care. It's not only open to people in the industry, we also take immediate family members. So that was just a little bit more about the home. So that is it for the slideshow. And I look forward to talking to you all more in the breakout groups.
Thank you, Barbara. That was such a great overview. And so Barbara will be in room number 1, and when we go into our breakout sessions. But don't worry, you'll have a chance to rotate through each room and meet every participant or every panel member. Next up is Molly Quinlan Hayes with InCaper. And so I'm going to let you take it away, Molly.
Great, thank you, Jessica. Let's see. I know I had my screen up a moment ago. Just a moment. So I feel really great to be kind of surrounded this morning by 3 organizations that were founders of NCAPER back in 2006. And I apologize, y'all. I had my presentation and I'm unable to locate it right now. Let's see. Oh, golly, I'm so sorry. Well, I'll keep talking while I find it. NCAPER is the National Coalition for Arts Preparedness and Emergency Response. And we were created in 2006, really at the in the aftermath of Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, and a national recognition that the response system for the arts, particularly individual artists, just totally failed. I mean, they're, totally failed the arts community. And so a number of organizations, including at that time the Actors Fund, Craft Emergency Relief Fund, and South Arts, who now serves as our fiscal sponsor, were all part of the foundation of NCAPER. So we're the only national, all discipline, we serve all disciplines: film, literary, performing arts, visual arts, media, traditional arts, organization that also works in the full circle of readiness, mitigation, response, and recovery. So readiness being making sure that whether you are an artist, an arts organization, or a funder, that you're in a posture to respond to a crisis that hits you. Mitigation, how do you lessen your risks so that if something happens to you, the impact is less and you're able to continue your business more quickly. Response being in the immediate days and weeks after a crisis, getting back up and running your operations or your practice. And then finally, recovery, the long-term, bringing the organization or the studio or the community back to, and hopefully better than, it was before the emergency occurred. So I am still trying to find my PowerPoint. My
Molly, I
apologies.
know you sent it to me as well, so I'm looking. So if I find it, I'll bring it up.
Thank you. Oh, here we go. I found it. Okay, here we are. So I thought I would introduce you to our programs and services by way of our website, ncaper.org. And we, as I mentioned, we are all discipline and national. We also work very much in collaboration with partner organizations such as the Entertainment Community Fund, Craft Emergency Relief Fund, to network and communicate with each other to understand what is going on in the field and make sure that we work collaboratively and effectively and don't duplicate resources. So I'll talk about a lot of this same kind of issues that Barbara and Cameron will be talking about, but we each try to attack them from a slightly different angle. And we also are not a funding organization, so they'll be talking about financial resources. That's something that we do not offer. We are much more information, resources, and collaborative. So our first and most primary purpose, and this is the one that I hope you all never have to use, is crisis response. So we are there to, for instance, after a crisis, hold response facilitation calls to help the arts community come together and also come together with our brain trust. So this afternoon, we'll have our 8th weekly call with the arts community on Maui after the wildfires in Lahaina. And we put together our experts who have been through emergencies themselves, have a lot of advice and guidance and best practices to share with those on the ground. We provide disaster resources, so sections on our website that have lists that are discipline specific, geographically specific, all of our partner organizations, so you can easily access current information. Our rapid assessment surveys we've just launched, and this is a collaboration with FEMA and the Heritage Emergency National Task Force to really start to get a sense after a crisis of what the impact has been. Right now, there's no data collected, so there's no way to advocate and really give FEMA, other public partners, funders, a sense of what the real impact has been in a crisis. So we're in the process now of beginning that kind of data collection, being able to tell those stories and direct resources where the need is greatest. The Arts Field Guide to Federal Disaster Assistance is a free downloadable publication in English and Spanish to help guide whether you are an individual artist or an organization through the labyrinth that is FEMA, Small Business Administration, and the other programs that can help you after a disaster. It kind of puts it in layperson's terms and makes it much more navigable. And finally, if you're on our mailing list, when we know that there is an event coming, we can send outbound alerts and preparedness tips. For instance, early in the year, we were able to send a lot of information to California communities who typically don't expect flooding and giving them some flood preparedness tips when the winter snow melt really impacted a lot of communities. We also work in policy and advocacy. So everything from trying to change legislation and regulations to make sure that the arts and artists are included. An example we worked in concert with in an effort led several years ago by Craft Emergency Relief Fund to make sure that self-employed craftspeople and everyone from plumbers to artists to masons who are self-employed and have their own tools and equipment are covered under FEMA, because prior to that, if you were self-employed and lost your tools and equipment in a federal disaster, you weren't eligible to receive financial assistance for tool replacement. Now that has changed. We're also very active in doing advocacy and education in the arts funding and broader funding community to make sure that they are aware of the needs and the responsibility, really, that funders now have to be responding and supporting their constituents in both readiness and response. Our programs include the Crisis Analysis and Mitigation Coaches Program, or CAM, which your very own Jessica Holland is a member. And this is a program, we are building it nationally. Right now we have 20 coaches in 16 states and in Puerto Rico, and they are trained to work in communities to build connections and networks between the arts, business, and the emergency management local sector. So because it's really important to have a local network before an emergency happens so that you can communicate quickly and efficiently when you need to. And they also are working in that community to build arts-based mitigation programs. And there's some really exciting pilot projects out there that you can learn about on our website. We're also now recruiting 12 people for our third cohort. So if you're interested in building community and building resilience in your community, I encourage you to check out that application. We also are proud to be a partner in D-Plan/Arts Ready. This is the online emergency preparedness tool that can help you build a plan, and we help to manage the fee waivers. So this is a subscription tool that you can receive a free subscription to. So you can reach out to us or to Jessica about that. We also are active in conferences and field education. Please invite us either virtually or in person if we can work in your community or do a program for you. Our next upcoming session is at the Grantmakers in the Arts Conference, where we're doing a session that is specifically about how funders build response and are working collaboratively with the artists and arts organizations in their community to be more resilient and prepared. We train emerging arts leaders at 15 different arts administration programs across the country, knowing that this needs to be a skill set that the arts leaders of tomorrow need to have. And we are a close partner with Performing Arts Readiness. We do much of our training and education in partnership and in tandem with them. Our tools and resources include the Arts Field Guide that I mentioned, essential guidelines and crisis funding principles. If any of you are grant makers or local arts councils, please know that if a crisis happens, your constituents are going to look to you, and we're here to help you be prepared to help them. And so we've collected kind of best practices, because grant making and funding in an emergency needs to be very, very different than a typical project or general operating support kind of program. So we've collected guidance on how to navigate to something that's much more nimble. Arts Organizations at a Crossroads Toolkit is a publication that we did during COVID, but it does have some evergreen elements, particularly, and I think most importantly, a section on how to do cross-training and document the key responsibilities of personnel so that you are much better prepared if someone leaves temporarily or permanently, unexpectedly, so that you do have some backup and are able to keep things running smoothly. The Cultural Placekeeping Guide takes the cultural placemaking movement and overlays that with how to integrate emergency networking and emergency preparedness in that very important work. And we also have a list of all of the resources of our partners, including Entertainment Community Fund and CERF Plus. Our newsroom, the typical news releases, what I wanted to point out to you are our blogs. We publish stories and tips and resources and case studies. As an example, in early September, our blog focused, because it was National Preparedness Month, on easy tips and resources for arts organizations to get more prepared. And then later in the month, we collaborated with Craft Emergency Relief Fund and New York Foundation for the Arts on an easy 4-step action plan for artists to build their preparedness. And another story, our colleague Emily Moses at the Kentucky Arts Council kind of shared her rather harrowing story that ultimately ended up safe, which we're pleased about. But in the middle of an online grant review panel at the Kentucky Arts Council. Their state office building received a threat of an active shooter, and they had to immediately shut down that panel and go into active shooter mode. So it's simply to demonstrate that we all are at risk from natural and human-caused threats, and we're here to help you be ready and be safe. Coming soon, we'll be expanding to a free affiliates opportunity. There are many more partners that we want to be working with more effectively, and I hope you will sign up for our mailing list, again, to receive our resources. And I'll look forward to talking to you more in the breakout rooms. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Molly, for that overview of NCAPER, and very important work. Next, I'm going to introduce Cameron Baxter-Lewis with CERF Plus. And Cameron, I'm going to hand it over to you.
Great. Thanks so much, Jessica. Thanks, South Arts, for having us here today. I'm honored to present alongside Barbara and Molly. Been a huge fan of them personally, but also their organizations for a long time. And thank you all for making the time to be here today. I am going to share my screen. You'll see kind of a blue flowery type thing for a second. And then you should now see a presentation. So I'm with the Craft Emergency Relief Fund, otherwise known as CERF Plus. Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about that organization and its origin, and then we'll spend some time looking at our grants and programs, as well as our training. And then I will end the presentation with some resources that are helpful for individual artists as they prepare and recover from disasters. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge the artist in this slide, Damoon McCullen, the Big Chief Young Seminoles. You'll see his work in the next slide. Absolutely incredible artist. So the Craft Emergency Relief Fund began in 1985, and they have a very simple origin story, which is that a number of artists would show up to these craft shows, and they would always hear about somebody who couldn't make it because of an emergency. And that could be a car accident, that could be an illness, that could be they're taking care of somebody who's sick, and they would physically pass around a hat to collect donations for that person and then send those donations to that artist. Fast forward to today, and we are a national organization that still has that core root of providing emergency relief, but has expanded to also offer preparedness resources and grants, as well as was mentioned by Molly earlier, advocate for artists, especially around disaster legislation, which is something they are often overlooked in. So getting into our grants and programs, what we're most well known for, and understandably so, is our emergency relief grants. These are $3,000 grants to U.S. craft artists who have had a practice threatened or serious emergency. And those can look like many, many different things. They can even be a series of unfortunate events that have significantly affected an artist's ability to produce their work. That program is open year-round, so artists can apply at any time. Since I started at the organization about 5 years ago, that program has tripled in size. And a few reasons for that are that we have really increased our partnerships and the artists we work with in Puerto Rico after Hurricane Maria. About a quarter of all of our emergency relief grant recipients are in Puerto Rico. They have a huge artisan and craft artist network. And a second really apparent reason for that is the number of climate-related disasters has increased. And then third is that we're better known amongst artists, especially after COVID. So we're seeing a greater demand for those services. So that is our emergency relief grant program. We also have a program that was born out of the idea that it would be nice not just to provide funding after an emergency, but to provide funding to help safeguard an artist practice or career. So we have our Get Ready program. Those are $500 grants for artists to take any sort of activity or project to protect themselves. And that can look like a lot of different things. That could be safeguarding their studio, maybe getting a fume extractor if they're working with any sort of noxious metals. That could look like paying for childcare. This is a new activity we integrated during COVID, recognizing that many artists were trying to produce for particularly heavy seasons and weren't able to because they were at home watching their children. It can look like legacy planning, making a will, or planning for your what will happen after you pass with all of your artwork. And we have some resources for that. So the projects are super flexible. I'm going to show you a few artists who receive grants that have some unique projects in a moment. But that program is cyclical. It's open twice a year, typically the spring and the fall. It is open right now until October 31st. So if you know of any craft artists, please encourage them to apply. And then the next cycle will be next spring. And then lastly, I'll briefly mention, we have a gifts in kind program where we work with businesses such as Scott Kilns, who offers 3 kilns a year to artists who have lost their kiln, typically from a disaster. We also work with Rio Grande Jewelers, who provide credits to Rio Grande account members so that they can purchase supplies, and Penguin Clay Pottery, who gives $500 gift certificates so folks, ceramicists, can buy materials. And that's kind of an added bonus when they receive an emergency relief grant. So I'm going to very briefly talk about a few artists. We probably won't be able to cover all of these, but this is Sarah Vaughn. She was injured in her studio, and she used this grant to replace lost income. And so she is located in Bakersville, North Carolina. As you can see, does some really cool figurative work within glass. Hold one moment, there we go. Next, I'll talk about Yinka Orafadia. She is one of our Get Ready recipients and used her Get Ready grant to purchase a filtration system for her studio. This is a very common project. I would say about 1/3 of all of our grant recipients do something to safeguard their studio. I'll probably just do one more. This is Quentin Antone, also purchased a fume extractor system based in Tucson, Arizona, and really was just trying to protect his upper respiratory system because he is a silversmith, which has soldering and melting and a number of other processes that are very dangerous for the body. So there's many more, but in light of time, I will move along and mention that we also do training. Last year, we facilitated training or presentations for around 600 participants. These can look like presentations today, more speaking engagements, talking about what we do. We also do coffee chats, and we're trying to be a little bit more intentional around planning for those, around topics that are relevant to the field. And last week, we facilitate trainings. Last night, we did a training for the Robert McMillan Foundation on emergency preparedness and business insurance for individual artists. So if you're interested in any of those trainings, please reach out to me. We'd love to connect. These are just some of the more recent events that we've been a part of. And then lastly, I'll mention that we have a number of resources for individual artists. One of those is our Studio Protector, which is a toolkit where artists can go through and make a preparedness plan for themselves. It helps them think about their assets and their risk, and then create an individual preparedness plan based on which sort of risk are most relevant to them. We also have a studio safety guide, which is a series of checklists that artists can go through when they're setting up their studio to make sure that the structure is safe, the electrical is safe, they considered all of the insurance elements. Really simple guidebook, but nice to kind of walk through and make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. And lastly, I mentioned that we have resources on our website specific to different types of incidents. So if an artist goes through a wildfire or they have a flood, we have resources on how you can salvage your work. So I think that pretty much covers it. The only other thing I'll mention is we do have Crafting Your Legacy book. So if you're trying to do any sort of estate planning, we have some tips on how to approach that. And we have a series of videos around wellness because craft artists with the repetitive nature often get injured. So we try to offer some tips on how they can preserve their bodies. So I'm going to stop there because I realize we would like to get into the breakout rooms.
Thank you so much for that overview. Such amazing services that have been highlighted today. Hopefully, you learned some new information. I certainly did. One of the things that I wanted to weave together and just reiterate about all of these organizations is that not only are they providing services in times of need or response, but also what we refer to sometimes as those blue sky services, the ones where everything is okay, we're not in the middle of a panic or a disaster, and so we have the mind and the clarity to do planning to apply for these types of programs or participate in these conversations that help us when times are hard. And I think with climate change, human caused disasters, and we hear about them all the time. And I think that these are amazing organizations. And I knew about them well before the pandemic, but it made me so proud to see the advocacy work that they were all doing on behalf of artists and arts workers in the industry. So please share this information, sign up for their email lists. I think the important thing is when there's an advocacy alert, pay attention to that and let your voice be heard, because we are an important part of the creative economy, and we deserve those benefits as well. So thank you all for presenting that. So what I'm going to do now is set up these breakout rooms, and just to review, Barbara Davis with the Entertainment Community Fund will be in room 1. Molly Quinlan Hayes with InCaper will be in room 2, and Cameron Baxter Lewis will be in room 3. And so you can, when I open these up, you can choose, but what we'll do is give about 10 to 11, 12 minutes in each room. And I will give a sort of a broadcast of, hey, we've got 2 minutes, we're going to wrap up, and then we'll change rooms. So there may be a little bit of shuffling in between the rooms, but bear with us as we sort of work through this. This is the first time we've done this type of networking. So you're about to get the choice to choose your room. So go ahead and choose room 1, 2, or 3.